You good?
I'm ready.
You get to stand on the winner's side this time.
All right, we're here with Ben and Topher. I mean, I just have to lead with, like, personally, this is the best tennis match I've personally watched, like, in witnessed, like, personally. It's the best tennis match I've ever watched. So, like, just huge congratulations to both of you guys. It's just incredible fight by both of you. Matt, what were your opening thoughts?
I'm exhausted. I didn't even play. I mean, that was the level of tennis was incredible throughout, and the shots that were made near the end were the biggest points. And Ian and I commented up there of when the big points came in, you guys weren't making loose and kind of junk errors. It was people were hitting winners or really forcing the action, and to do that at the biggest stage at 5-5 or 4-5, I mean, that is so difficult as a tennis player.
Man, yeah, so going back, seems like a long time ago.
Started like 4 hours ago.
Yeah. So, Topher, first question for you. It felt like, to Matt and I, a pretty significant shift between the first set and the second set. It felt to us like you had a very clear plan in the first set to attack, keep the pressure on, dictate with the forehand. And then in the second set, it looked to us like you let your foot off the gas there, just enough to let Ben really get his teeth into things. Is that accurate? What was it like for you?
Yeah, so I have to start by just shouting out Ben again. It was a hell of a match and an honor to play against Ben. You know, he's a good guy, a brilliant tactician on court, and to be able to play a match like this against a guy like that is really an honor. So I have to start by saying that. But to your question, Ian, I did, and it was similar to Sean's match against Ben as well, where I felt like in that first set I was almost not there. I described it as kind of TV static when I did commentary with you, and I think that holds, where I was just playing on instinct. It's not my number one forte to move forward, to be aggressive, to dictate points, but I had a sense after watching Sean's match that that's kind of route one against Ben. So I was able to start very well with that, and with that came a level of comfort. And I think in the second set, you saw me get a little bit comfortable, get into more exchanges, and to a certain extent, there's credit to Ben too, because there were adjustments that he made. At least from my perspective, I noticed that he started to come to my backhand a little bit more often, and I had to sort of juggle between the two-hander, which felt safe, and the slice, which I actually felt like I was doing some stuff with. So I had to kind of juggle that. And then he also made an adjustment, at least again to my perspective, where he started to draw me forward on his terms, and I had to figure out in the third set how am I going to respond to that. And for me, the number one emphasis was getting some depth on my approaches, and also I tried to mix in a drop shot or two off drop shots that he hit, just to kind of reset the balance there. But at a certain point, like in that third set, it's not really tactics anymore. Like honestly, that match point, I didn't even see the volley that I hit. I just hit it. You know, it just at a certain point you kind of throw tactics out the window, and it's just a battle between two players. And I told myself at the start of the third set, I was like, I know that I can hang from a fitness perspective, and I know that Ben's not going to fade from a fitness perspective. So I just had to keep in my mind, like, it's going to be a dogfight, it's going to be a battle, it's going to come down to 1 or 2 points at the end.
My first question for Ben would be, in the first set, you didn't hold serve. Topher broke you every time you served in the first set, and then you held serve. For sure the first 3 service games, maybe 4. Was it 4 in a row?
I can't remember for this.
It was for sure 3.
Yeah, it was for sure 3.
Were you conscious of any kind of adjustment there? How are you able to turn things around in the second set?
I was conscious of the fact that in 3 of my 4 service games in the first set, I had a game point and I just didn't convert. Okay. So I just told myself the probability of that happening again is relatively low, so stick with what you're doing, just try to do it a little bit better. And I thought that I could give Topher a couple different looks. I've got I call it like a corkscrew, where I try to put like extra spin on it and kind of like punch at it rather than hitting out on it, just to keep it low, just to put a different spin on it so he couldn't get into a pattern of just like teeing off on return. So knowing that that's the way that I got broken 3 out of 4 times, and not taking anything away from Topher being clutch, being down a game point in all 3 of those, I just felt like things have got to turn around sooner or later.
Good memory on the game point.
Sticks with you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So fast forward then 1 set. How? Well, let me ask you this question. Matt and I were debating this question up in the booth. Have you ever lost a match that was this close before?
I think I have. Certainly, 3 sets and then a tiebreaker in the 3rd set.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said in the confessional, if this is not the longest match I've ever played, it's very close to it. So lengthwise,
wow.
I don't know if I've ever lost a match quite this long, but
because Matt and I we kind of have to assume that this is kind of your comfort zone. Is that fair? Like going into the 3rd set, like we have to imagine you feel really confident that you've been here kind of a million times before. And it just seems like you hardly ever lose in that situation.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I think that's fair to say. I looked up and I was pretty surprised at just how much time had elapsed. Even like midway through the 2nd set, it seemed like we were maybe an hour and 45 minutes into the match, and I'm like, my goodness, this is going on for quite some time, and that's, I think, a testimony to each of our ability to keep points going. And make errors, I guess. But yeah, it was a lengthy match. I feel pretty good physically, given for the length of time that we played the match. So. And
I guess that would be my next. Like, you didn't sit down.
Yeah.
You haven't sat down since you walked out on the court at 9 o'clock. How is that? I just have to ask. Is that a conscious? Are you like trying to make a statement there, or is it just your instinct is to not sit?
I would say it's my instinct, because I wouldn't necessarily say that sitting down is any kind of weakness, because most people do it. But if you show your opponent that you never once have to sit, then what kind of message does that send? Like,
I knew, honestly, I knew there was one thing that was a given, and it was that Ben was not going to fade. And he. Did
you realize he hadn't sat down the whole match?
You know, I didn't, to be honest, because I sat down a ton. I was in my own little world. I tried. That was a conscious effort that I made, as a matter of fact. So I'm typically kind of more like Ben, where I'll just kind of grab a quick sip and go over to the other side of the court. But today I knew it was going to be such a physical match, no matter what. I mean, I couldn't quite have predicted this, but I knew it was going to be a physical match. So I made a conscious effort to kind of sit down, get my heart rate back down, replenish my fluids, and kind of just hit a mental reset button regardless of what had happened. But I knew, I didn't quite notice that Ben never sat down, but I did notice, like, in the match, I knew there was never.
It's probably a good thing you didn't notice.
Yeah, that might have psyched me
Darn.
out. But
you should have like just been jumping over there, like
jumpy jacks,
burpees.
I knew he wouldn't fade. I knew he wasn't going to give the match up on that front, because he's tremendously fit. So I knew I had to be ready for that. Yeah.
So Topher, I basically left you for dead when you were down 2-5. I didn't think there was any chance you were going to get back into it. But kudos, obviously, to get back to 5-5. But one of the things Ian and I said is at about, 15 all 2-5, you started playing more aggressive like you did the first set. Did the switch flip to realize, like, you can't go down the same style you've been doing, and that started to build your momentum to get you back in to the match?
So to a certain extent, yes. I knew that Ben wasn't going to fade, so that's number one. So at that point, you have to say, okay, the strategy that I've been employing for the last maybe, let's say, set and a half, where I dropped the second set 6-4 and I was down 2-5, was getting a little bit too comfortable in rallies. So I said to myself, I kind of have to bring some positive play in my game. You know, I have to go for a few shots. I have to be aggressive. I have to take some chances, because he's not just going to give you the match. Yeah. So that was a conscious choice that I made. And at the end of the day, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. It was 2-5, but I sort of said, let's go one game at a time. So I had my serve to hold for 5-3, and then from there it's kind of just I tried to stay positive. I tried to take it one game at a time, 1 point at a time, and I didn't want to personally give it away. Ben and I sort of had a tug of war of both of us saying, we're not going to give you an easy point. We're not going to give you an easy game, and I just kind of mentally locked in, got myself ready to have to fight for everything at the end of the day.
That was an incredible comeback, incredible match. And Ben, one of the things Ian and I mentioned up in the booth is it wasn't obviously the whole match, but there was a point in time where you were drawing Topher in, and you were extremely successful lobbing, where Topher was just letting the ball drop. He wasn't hitting his overhead anymore. And then you were doing it and went more to the passing game, and Topher I think he missed like a couple volleys. Did you notice that pattern and start lobbing again, or because you were very successful with that, and it seemed like you got away from that a little bit?
I think to some extent I got away from it because, and my recollection may be a little faulty at this point, but I feel like it had started to lose its efficacy, and Topher was making adjustments, and so I felt like I had to try something else. So I could be wrong. Maybe I should have just stuck with it. Things might have turned out different.
I have to say, though, for people watching, I don't know if it translated on camera, but Ben's lob is so nasty. And I think Sean mentioned this, too. It has this tendency to – I'll preface this by saying I have, like, the worst overheads ever. Like, I just have a terrible overhead to begin with.
Yeah.
But it had a tendency to just float slightly further back than I was ready for. And to his credit, towards the end, he was lobbing very effectively. Like, I had – game points at 5-all
oh yeah, the ceiling.
Yeah, I had game points at like 4-5, I want to say, where in the third set where he was hitting lobs that were like touching the baseline, and I was like, this guy's just got the craziest lobs. But I mean, again, he's also got great passing shots. Yeah. He's got that lefty forehand down line passing shot, and I'm not super comfortable positionally because sometimes you sort of have to adjust to move slightly over to cover that shot and then have the short angle cross-court volley. And that's not stuff that, like, is in my mind usually because it's not something that I do typically. So I don't know, Ben, I can't speak for you in terms of your tactics, but I felt like both approaches were working for him at times, yeah.
Yeah, there were some things I would tell myself in the changeovers, and it's one thing to tell yourself to do something, it's another thing to be able to do it. So you were really kicking my butt, especially in the first set with the inside-out forehand. You were just hitting it beyond me to my forehand side. And I told myself, just camp out on the forehand side because when he has his choice of shot, he is not trying to go behind you. So he's just going to go to your forehand each time. So I needed to shade over a little bit to my forehand side. And it's tough because that's just anathema to how I would normally play. I like to center myself to be able to go in either direction, but he was consistently going beyond my forehand. So I told myself a couple things. I said, you need to hit with more slice, you need to hit lower, and he it really seemed like you wanted to avoid your backhand. So I'd get you in like the far corner, and I needed to be going down the line more to make you cover as much ground as possible. Because if I was just trying to bang with you and hit right to where you wanted me to hit on the forehand side, then you were going to just put it past me, bringing it back. So it's something I told myself, and I was able to do a little bit more as the match went along, but you did a good job of preventing me from being able to choose the shot that I wanted to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we could probably talk about this match for a while, but I want to be respectful of Ben because he has another work to do. He's got another match to get ready for. Any final? I just want to leave it, Ben and Topher. Any kind of final thoughts?
It was really fun. Thanks, Topher, for being such a great and gracious opponent. Thank you, Matt and Ian, for bringing us together and allowing us to play. And thanks to the viewers for tuning in and watching us do what we do.
It was a pleasure. I loved playing that match, and to play it against somebody like you again was a real privilege. And it was fun to have kind of that mental chess battle that we had. We both kind of picked up each other's tactics and made adjustments all the way to the finish line. And again, I give you enormous credit for coming here, taking on this challenge. I made mention of this, but I had time to watch your game, observe your game plan for you. You've got 4 people that you've got a target on your back for all those matches, and it's
Something tells me Ben loves that.
Yeah, he does. He does, and that's to his credit. That's the kind of guy he is, and you got to give him enormous credit for that. So, a lot of fun.
Topher and Ben, thank you so much. It was an instant classic.
Yes.
Can't wait to share it with everybody else. Appreciate you guys putting yourselves out on the line today.
You bet.
And we'll catch you guys in the next match.
Hey, Scott.
You want to do this?
Yeah, well, working one, get lunch, shower, and change at 13 minutes anyway. Yeah, I am. I had told Ian like 2, but I'm flexible.
Yeah, I'm good for whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want you to.
But we should not
you're
play.
obligated.
Yeah, but we shouldn't not play, like I said.
Yeah, no, I would love to. But
Yeah.
I want you to be ready for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think it makes a difference. Yeah, in terms of like the way I feel.
Hey guys, Scott, back for another match, playing against the man, the myth, the legend, Ben, aka MEP. He gets a lot of balls back. Breathing is going to be a real test for me. And I just got to stay on my toes, not waste too much energy at once. No.